The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars, thousands of worlds, and endless civilizations. Many species had risen, built empires, and claimed power. They thought they knew everything about strength and war. Among these mighty empires, there was one common opinion: humans were weak. Humans lived on their small blue planet, far away from the great centers of the galaxy. They were not part of the great alliances. They had no voice in the grand councils of stars. To the galaxy, they were latecomers, simple, fragile creatures with soft bodies and short lives. But there was something the galaxy always noticed about humans. They loved stories. Stories of warriors, heroes, and legends. They told tales about men who could fight armies, women who could stand against monsters, and soldiers who never surrendered even when death was certain. To humans, these stories were part of their identity. To the galaxy, they were a joke. Inside the Great Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of powerful species gathered. The chamber was a massive hall built inside a hollowed asteroid, with walls glowing from energy veins. Every species had its seat: giant insectoid rulers, scaled reptilian kings, proud avian lords, and machine minds linked to metallic bodies. They debated trade, war, and law. But today, they were united in one thing: mocking humans. One tall avian, with bright feathers like burning suns, stood and spread his wings. They call their warriors Achilles, a man who could not be killed except for his heel. The bird-like alien laughed, and the echo of his voice filled the hall. What kind of warriors create weaknesses in their own stories? The insectoid queen rattled her mandibles in amusement. And Hercules, she hissed. A man who claimed to have the strength of gods. These humans tell lies to make themselves feel important. A reptilian general slammed his claw on the table, shaking it with power. His eyes glowed like fire. Samurai, knights, soldiers, they are only myths and toys. If humans faced a real galactic war, their legends would burn in the first strike. The chamber roared with laughter. Alien voices of every shape and sound mocked Earth. To them, human history was nothing but a book of fairy tales. Humans were seen as weak dreamers, creatures who survived only because the galaxy never paid attention to them. But not everyone laughed. In the shadows of the council chamber sat a silent figure, a commander of the Varan Empire, an ancient race known for their wisdom and caution. His skin was pale like stone, and his eyes glowed faintly blue. Unlike the others, he did not laugh. He leaned forward and spoke in a calm, heavy voice. "Legends," he said, "sometimes hide truths." The chamber grew quiet for a moment. His words fell like a heavy weight. But soon, laughter returned. The avian lord flapped his wings again. "Truth? These humans barely leave their planet. They crawl through space with weak ships and weaker armies. Their legends are nothing but children's dreams." Yet the Varan commander remained silent after his warning. He looked out through the transparent dome of the council hall at the endless stars beyond. Something in his eyes suggested that he feared what others could not imagine. Far away, on Earth, humans lived quietly. They looked at the night sky, dreaming of distant worlds. They built rockets, explored planets, and sent signals into space. But they did not know that across the stars, mighty empires were laughing at them. On Earth, legends were not jokes. They were memories of courage. From ancient battles with swords and shields to modern wars fought with tanks and planes, humans had always told stories to keep their spirit alive. These stories carried pain, sacrifice, and hope. But the galaxy only saw weakness, never the meaning behind those tales. The mocking of humans continued for years in the Great Council. Their legends were shared like comedy among alien rulers. Entire assemblies laughed at the foolishness of mortals who believed in warriors like Hercules, Spartans, or samurai. But then, something changed. It began with a signal. Deep at the edge of the galaxy, in a dark sector where no empire dared to build colonies, strange energy pulses appeared. They were faint at first, almost like whispers across the void. Then they grew stronger. Alien scanners picked them up, confused by the patterns. They were not natural. They were not from known civilizations. At first, the council ignored it. Perhaps it was a dying star, or a collapsing black hole, or the ruins of some old war machine. But then reports came. Scouts sent to investigate never returned. Only fragments of broken transmissions reached back. One message carried a voice, filled with static. Massive ships, human, design. Not possible. The signal ended in silence. The galaxy turned its attention to these strange events. For the first time, their laughter faded. The insectoid queen clicked her mandibles nervously. What ships? Humans cannot build massive fleets. Their technology is centuries behind. The reptilian general growled. Scouts are weak. Perhaps they were destroyed by pirates or by some forgotten empire. But more signals arrived. More ships were detected, moving in formation, thousands of them. They did not match any known fleet. They carried human markings. The avian lord flapped his wings in disbelief. Impossible! Humans do not possess such power. They live in peace, chasing stories, not war. The Varan commander, the one who had warned the council, stood slowly. His voice was steady, but heavy with meaning. Perhaps their legends were never lies. Perhaps they were warnings. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. Trade routes buzzed with fear. Soldiers whispered in barracks. Civilians spoke in hushed voices about human warships, colossal machines that should not exist, moving like a storm toward the galaxy's border. On Earth, humans said nothing. They did not explain. They did not answer questions. They only watched as the galaxy grew restless. The first clear image finally arrived, a colossal ship drifting through the void. It was larger than any alien battleship, its hull black with ancient scars, its design sharp and menacing. Across its side, glowing faintly, was a single word written in English. Hercules. The galaxy froze in shock. The laughter died. If one such ship existed, how many more were there? In the quiet halls of the Varan Empire, the commander whispered to himself as he looked at the stars. The legends have awakened. And at the edge of the galaxy, where the darkness was deepest, the human warships kept coming. They were not myths. They were real. And they were heading straight for the galactic border. The galaxy was still shaking. The news of the first massive human warship, named Hercules, had spread faster than light through every trade route, every empire, and every colony. The ship was real. It was not a story. It was not a dream. It was not a myth told by humans around campfires. It existed, and it moved through space with a silent power that frightened even the strongest alien generals. For centuries, the galaxy had laughed at human legends. Now, for the first time, they began to whisper those names in fear. In the Great Galactic Council, the atmosphere had changed. Once filled with mocking laughter, the chamber was now tense, heavy with silence. Representatives of empires who had never agreed on anything before were suddenly united, not by alliance, but by fear. The insectoid queen tapped her claws nervously on the table. Her voice was filled with disbelief. One ship does not make an army. Perhaps this Hercules is an old relic, a failed experiment. Perhaps it is only one weapon, and nothing more. The reptilian general hissed in anger. Do not fool yourself, Queen. Scouts reported fleets, not one ship. Fleets too large to count. They carried names. Human names. The avian lord spread his wings but did not mock this time. His eyes glowed with unease. I saw the images. Hercules is only the beginning. There was another ship, larger still. The signal showed a single word across its hull. Achilles. A shiver ran through the chamber. Even though they had laughed at that name before, now it felt different. The Varan commander rose from his seat. His pale eyes glowed faintly, and his voice carried across the hall. You see now. These are not fairy tales. These are not empty dreams. Humanity has hidden something powerful, something ancient. They call them legends, but perhaps they were always fleets. The council erupted into arguments. Some demanded immediate war. Others begged for diplomacy. But one truth remained: the humans had fleets no one knew about. How was it possible? Far away, on Earth, humanity stayed silent. Ordinary humans lived their lives, unaware of the panic they had created across the stars. They worked in cities, walked on streets, and watched the skies without knowing that alien civilizations trembled at the thought of them. But behind this quiet life, secrets were stirring. Deep underground, inside hidden facilities, ancient bunkers were opening for the first time in centuries. Colossal hangars, buried beneath mountains and oceans, began to glow with light. Machines long thought forgotten roared to life again. These were the forgotten fleets. The history of these fleets was known to only a few humans. Long ago, before humanity even joined the stars, a secret project had begun. The Earth had faced endless wars, endless threats. Human leaders knew one truth: if the galaxy ever discovered Earth, humanity would be seen as weak. So, in silence, they built fleets, massive war machines hidden far from the eyes of both humans and aliens. For generations, the fleets slept. Legends of Hercules, Achilles, samurai, Spartans, and soldiers were told across centuries, not just as stories, but as masks. The legends were created to hide the truth: humanity had been preparing for war long before the galaxy even noticed them. Now, the fleets were awakening. On the edge of the galaxy, alien scouts continued to disappear. Ships sent to investigate were swallowed by the dark. Their last transmissions were filled with static and terror. One scout, before being destroyed, managed to send a single image: hundreds of massive warships drifting in perfect formation, their hulls shining with human names. Leonidas, Yamato, Alexander, Khan. Each name carried the weight of Earth's bloody history. When the council received these names, silence filled the chamber once more. Every representative felt the same cold fear. Humans had named their fleets after warriors who never surrendered, conquerors who had changed history, leaders who had risen from nothing to dominate empires. The reptilian general slammed his claw on the table, shaking it with fury. This cannot be. How could humans build such fleets without being seen? We monitor every world. We watch every race. We are the galaxy's rulers. The Varen commander's eyes narrowed. You watch only what you think is dangerous. You ignored humans because you believed they were weak. Perhaps that was your greatest mistake. The avian lord whispered, almost to himself. They hid their power behind stories, and we believed the stories were lies. The panic spread across empires. Merchants refused to travel near human borders. Soldiers whispered about ghosts of warriors rising from Earth's past. Civilians begged their leaders to protect them. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt small and fragile. But humanity still remained silent. Their fleets moved slowly, with purpose, but they did not announce their intentions. No message, no demand, no explanation. Only silence. This silence was worse than threats. The insectoid queen sent a fleet of her own to intercept the humans, to test their strength. 50 warships, armed with the deadliest weapons her species possessed, moved into the dark. They never returned. Only one broken transmission reached back, filled with static and fear. A voice, trembling, whispered, "They are not myths. They are coming." The council tried to deny it, but the truth was impossible to ignore. Every empire that sent ships to face humans lost them. No survivors. No victories. Only silence. The galaxy's greatest powers now faced a choice: unite against the humans, or be destroyed one by one. Meanwhile, on Earth, a young technician named Daniel stood inside one of the awakening bunkers. He looked at the colossal warship before him, its hull glowing with the name Samurai. The ship's engines hummed like a beast awakening from centuries of sleep. Daniel whispered to himself, in awe. So the legends were true. He knew what the galaxy did not. These fleets had been hidden for centuries, built not just for defense, but for something greater. Humanity had never stopped preparing. They had always been waiting. As the human fleets moved closer to the galaxy's border, alien worlds fell into chaos. Some empires began evacuating their colonies. Others prepared for war. A few even whispered of surrender before the first shot was fired. But humanity still did not speak. Their silence echoed louder than any war cry. In the Varan capital, the commander who had always warned the council stood before a great star map. He traced the path of the human fleets, his voice grim. They are heading straight for us. They are not wandering. They are not lost. They know exactly where they are going. A younger officer asked, trembling, "Where are they going, Commander?" The commander's pale eyes burned like cold fire. "They are coming here, to prove that their legends were never lies." The galaxy waited in terror. The forgotten fleets of humanity had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. And at the edge of the stars, the human warships filled the dark like a storm, their names glowing across the void: Hercules, Achilles, Leonidas, Samurai, Alexander. The galaxy had laughed at human legends. Now, those legends were coming for them. The galaxy had reached a breaking point. For weeks, whispers of human warships had spread across every empire. Fleets with ancient names, Hercules, Achilles, Leonidas, Samurai, Alexander, moved like shadows at the edge of space. Every alien ruler had heard the same stories: scouts vanished, armies destroyed, no survivors. The laughter of the council was gone. The once mocking voices of alien leaders were now filled with fear. Still, some did not believe. Some thought it was all exaggeration. How could humans, fragile and weak, build fleets stronger than the greatest empires of the stars? The first true clash would answer their doubts. The alien armada. The Zorith Empire, a reptilian race of warriors, decided to take the lead. They had always believed themselves unbeatable. Their soldiers were bred for war, their ships forged in fire. For centuries, they had conquered worlds with no resistance. To them, the idea of fearing humans was an insult. General Karzul, a massive reptilian commander, stood aboard his flagship. His scales gleamed under the dim lights, and his eyes burned with hatred. "Humans think they can frighten the galaxy with stories," he hissed to his officers. "We will show them the power of true warriors. Their legends will die today." The Zorith Empire assembled an armada, 1,000 warships. It was one of the largest fleets ever seen. Battleships, carriers, cruisers, and destroyers filled the void like a sea of steel and fire. As they advanced toward the dark border where human fleets were last reported, morale was high. Soldiers roared with pride. Officers promised glory. No one believed they could lose. The human silence. On the other side of the dark, the human fleets moved without words. No signals, no threats, no demands. They only advanced, slowly and silently. Inside one of the massive warships, Leonidas, Captain Maria Torres stood at the command deck. Her eyes were calm, steady, and cold. Around her, officers worked in silence, their faces lit by the glow of monitors. "Zorith Armada is approaching," an officer reported. Maria nodded. Her voice was soft but filled with iron. "Then history will remember today." She turned to her crew. "Remember your ancestors. Spartans stood against thousands. They did not surrender. We will not either." The crew nodded. No one trembled. No one hesitated. For them, the legends were not just old stories. They were codes, guiding them, giving them strength. The clash begins. When the two fleets finally met, the void erupted in light. The Zorith Armada came with fury. Their warships fired plasma cannons, energy lances, and missiles that streaked across the darkness. Explosions filled the void as the first human ships were targeted. But something strange happened. The humans did not panic. They did not scatter. They moved with strange, unpredictable tactics. The warship Samurai twisted its path, diving through enemy fire in a move that no alien commander would have dared attempt. It slipped between two Zorith battleships, releasing swarms of drones that cut through armor like blades. The reptilian officers shouted in confusion. They fight like madmen. They do not fear death. On another front, the warship Achilles pushed forward alone, drawing the fire of dozens of enemy ships. Its shields burned, its hull cracked, but it did not stop. Every alien commander thought it was suicide. But then, Achilles released a weapon unlike anything the Zorith had seen. A pulse of pure energy spread across the fleet, disabling targeting systems, blinding sensors, leaving the enemy helpless. Human ships swarmed through the chaos, striking with precision. Alien fear. General Karzul slammed his claw on the table as he watched his ships fall. Hold the line. Crush them. They are only a few fleets against thousands. But no matter how many ships the Zorith sent, the humans fought with terrifying efficiency. Their tactics were not based on logic alone. They were based on something the Zorith could not understand: unpredictability. Humans sacrificed ships to save others. They dove into enemy formations, using strategies that seemed suicidal but always ended with devastating results. An alien officer shouted, panic in his voice. General! They fight like the stories we mocked. Like warriors who do not fear death. Karzul roared back, but inside, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The human codes. As the battle raged, strange messages were intercepted from human ships. Short transmissions, simple words, repeated before every attack. Hercules holds the line. Spartans never fall. Samurai strike unseen. Achilles cannot die. At first, alien analysts thought these were meaningless. But then they realized the truth: the legends were battle codes. Every name, every story, was tied to a strategy. The ships fought in ways that matched their ancient names. Hercules was unbreakable, taking endless damage. Samurai struck with sudden, precise attacks. Achilles lured enemies into traps. Leonidas held against overwhelming numbers. The galaxy had mocked these legends for centuries. But now, they saw them living in battle, brought to life by human fleets. Turning of the tide. The Zorith armada began to collapse. Outnumbering humans 10-1 meant nothing. Their formations broke. Their morale shattered. Soldiers who once roared with pride now trembled with terror. In the middle of the chaos, General Karzul's flagship was targeted. The human warship Leonidas cut through defenses and locked onto the massive vessel. Captain Torres's voice was calm as she gave the order. Forward. No retreat. Her crew obeyed. The Leonidas charged, shields burning, hull tearing apart, but it did not stop. At point-blank range, it unleashed a storm of weapons that ripped through the reptilian flagship. As the alien ship exploded in a ball of fire, silence fell across the Zorith armada. Their leader was gone. And with him, their courage. Aftermath. The battle was over. Out of 1,000 Zorith warships, only fragments remained. The humans had lost ships too, but far fewer than expected. Their fleets regrouped, silent as ever. For the first time in galactic history, an empire had been defeated by humans. The survivors fled, carrying stories of horror. They spoke of humans who fought like madmen, ships that became legends, warriors who smiled at death. When the news reached the council, panic erupted. Empires that once laughed at Earth now whispered in fear. Some began to prepare defenses. Others considered alliances. But one truth could not be ignored: humans had won their first clash against the galaxy. The message. At the end of the battle, a single human transmission was sent across the galaxy. It was short, simple, and terrifying. You mocked our legends. Now you will face them. The galaxy trembled. The first clash was only the beginning. And as the human fleets moved deeper into galactic space, one thing became clear. The age of laughter was over. The age of human legends had begun. The galaxy had seen wars before. Empires had clashed. Armadas had fought. But what happened at the Zorith border was different. For the first time, an empire had been crushed by humans. The news spread like fire across the stars. Whole planets whispered about it. Traders refused to travel. Soldiers prayed to gods they had forgotten. Every citizen, in every empire, asked the same question. How could humans do this? Whispers in the dark. On a mining colony near the galactic rim, workers sat around dim fires after a long shift. One miner, a scaled alien with tired eyes, spoke in a low voice. They say the humans came with only a few fleets, but they destroyed thousands. Another shook his head in disbelief. Stories. Just stories. Humans cannot be that strong. But an old worker leaned forward. His voice trembled. My brother was in the Zorith fleet. He never came back. Only fragments of his last message reached us. He said the humans fought like ghosts. He said, they smiled before they died. The fire crackled. No one spoke after that. The council in panic. In the great galactic council, chaos ruled. Representatives shouted at each other, their voices filled with fear. The insectoid queen clashed her claws against the table. We must unite. If we wait, the humans will destroy us all. The avian lord flapped his wings nervously. They do not speak. They do not send demands. What do they want? Territory? Resources? Or is it vengeance? The reptilian survivors from the Zorith Empire sat in silence. Their proud eyes, once filled with fire, now looked dull. They had seen their fleets burn. They had seen their general fall. Their voices carried only one word: fear. And then the Varen commander spoke. His voice was calm, heavy, and final. You laughed at their legends. Now their legends are alive. This is not about land. This is not about wealth. This is about showing us what they are. We thought them weak. We were wrong. Stories turned to warnings. Across the galaxy, human names spread like storms. Civilians whispered them in the streets. Soldiers repeated them in fear. Hercules, Achilles, Leonidas, Samurai, Alexander. But these were no longer just names. They were warnings. One refugee ship that escaped the Zorith border carried survivors who had seen the human fleets with their own eyes. They spoke of warships glowing with ancient symbols, fleets moving like one mind, soldiers fighting as if death meant nothing. They fight like their stories, one survivor said. Every legend they ever told, every warrior they ever praised, now walks again in their fleets. The human advance. The human warships did not rest. After the Zorith were destroyed, they moved deeper into galactic space. Silent, unstoppable, precise. Trade routes were cut. Border worlds fell without resistance. The humans did not always attack. Sometimes they simply appeared, their massive fleets surrounding a planet, and the planet surrendered before the first shot was fired. Alien governments tried to hide the truth from their people. They called the reports lies, exaggerations, or enemy propaganda. But the people knew. They saw the fear in their leaders' eyes. They heard the silence of fleets that never returned. And every night, they whispered human legends as if they were prayers. The fear in soldiers. On the fortress world of Dranik, alien soldiers trained for battle. They were told they would face humans soon. Their commanders shouted at them to be brave, to remember their empire's strength. But in the barracks, soldiers spoke quietly. They say the humans have a ship named Achilles. It cannot be killed. Another soldier shook his head. No, the dangerous one is samurai. They strike fast, and you never see them coming. The youngest soldier asked, his voice trembling. Do you think these are only names? Or are they really the warriors from their old stories? No one answered him. The silence of Earth. Strangest of all, Earth itself remained silent. No transmissions, no speeches, no explanations. Ordinary humans lived their daily lives. Children went to school. Farmers worked the fields. Workers built machines. But in the shadows, deep beneath oceans and mountains, bunkers still opened. More fleets awakened. Names glowed in the darkness. Hannibal, Genghis, Yamato, Spartacus. The galaxy could only watch in horror as the storm grew. The galactic debate. In the council, a desperate meeting took place. For the first time in history, empires that hated each other sat side by side. The insectoid queen hissed, "We must strike them together. Unite our fleets. Crush them before they reach our core worlds." The avian lord shook his head. "Strike? Do you not see? Every fleet sent against them vanishes. If we send all our strength, we may lose everything." The reptilian survivors growled, their voices bitter. "You cannot imagine what it was like. They do not fight for victory. They fight to prove something. They fight like the old gods we once feared." The council chamber fell silent again, until the Varen commander stood. His eyes burned like cold fire. "There is only one truth. We mocked them. We laughed at their legends. But perhaps those legends were never lies. Perhaps they were memories." Fear spreads to the people. On rich city worlds, panic grew. Civilians stocked supplies, fearing war. Riots broke out. Whole populations demanded that their governments surrender before the humans even arrived. Merchants refused to cross trade lanes that humans now controlled. Whole economies began to collapse. And through it all, the human fleets never spoke, never explained, never slowed. A message at last. Finally, after weeks of silence, the humans sent a message. It was short, simple, and broadcast across every corner of the galaxy. "You laughed at our stories. You mocked our heroes. Now you will witness them." The message carried no threats, no demands. Only truth. The galaxy trembled. The encirclement. The humans now controlled dozens of trade routes. They surrounded entire sectors without firing a single shot. Planets surrendered simply at the sight of warships with names like Hercules and Leonidas. The galaxy had always believed that strength came from numbers, technology, and power. But humans showed them another kind of strength, the strength of fear, the strength of belief, the strength of legends made real. The whisper of legends. On a remote world, a child looked up at the sky as human fleets passed overhead. She asked her mother, "Who are they?" Her mother whispered, her voice shaking, "They are the stories we laughed at. And now they have come to life." The galaxy that once mocked humans now whispered their names with trembling voices. Empires that once ruled with iron fists now felt like prey before a hunter. The rising fear spread through every world, every city, every soldier, every leader. And at the heart of it all, the human fleets continued to move, silent as death, unstoppable as fate. The galaxy was trembling. Weeks had passed since the first clash at the Zoreth border. Alien empires whispered human names like sacred curses: Hercules, Achilles, Leonidas, Samurai, Alexander. Even the strongest fleets trembled at the mere rumor of human movement. Now, the humans moved deeper into the galaxy, heading for the core worlds, the heart of every empire. For the first time, the galaxy realized something terrifying. Humans did not fight for conquest, they fought to prove who they were. The last alliance. The greatest empires of the galaxy gathered in the Council of the Core Worlds. Thousands of ships surrounded the central star system, the combined might of the reptilians, the avians, the insectoids, the machine minds, and countless others. General Karzul, the reptilian who had lost his fleet to humans, stood atop the bridge of the Titan of Scales, the largest ship in the galaxy. His claws trembled as he addressed the assembly. "We face humans for the final time. If we lose this battle, all empires will fall. We must fight with everything we have." The avian lord flapped his wings nervously. "Even with all our fleets, we may not survive. Their tactics, their strength, it is unlike anything we have ever faced." The insectoid queen hissed. "We cannot flee. If we do, our civilizations will vanish. We must strike, and we must strike now." But deep in their hearts, every leader knew a truth they dared not speak aloud. Humans fought like living legends, and no alliance could predict their moves. Earth's command. Far away, on the command deck of the flagship Hercules, Captain Maria Torres stood quietly, observing the galaxy through massive viewing panels. Her crew worked with calm precision. Lieutenant David Chen broke the silence. "Captain, the Core Alliance has gathered over 10,000 ships. They are preparing to strike." Maria's eyes were steady, her voice calm. "Good. Let them come. Let the galaxy see what legends can do." Another officer asked nervously, "Captain, do we have enough power? Enough ships?" Maria smiled faintly. "It is not about power. It is about purpose. Our ancestors fought not because they could, but because they had to. Today, we fight like they did." The crew nodded, inspired. Every human on the deck felt the weight of history, the weight of legends that had survived thousands of years, guiding them to this moment. The battle begins. The human fleets emerged from the darkness, a storm of steel and light. The Core Alliance reacted immediately, opening fire with 1,000 weapons. Plasma beams cut through space. Missiles streaked like comets. Explosions illuminated the void like a second sun. But the humans did not panic. Their fleets moved as one organism, each ship perfectly coordinated, unpredictable yet precise. The flagship Leonidas twisted through enemy fire, drawing dozens of enemy warships toward traps. Samurai struck swiftly, cutting through shields before enemies could react. Achilles took massive damage but held the line, shielding weaker ships as they executed devastating attacks. The aliens realized something they could not understand. Human tactics were not random. They were guided by stories, by lessons learned from legends that lived on in their hearts. Legends come to life. As the battle raged, strange transmissions were intercepted from human ships. Short, simple phrases, repeated over and over. "Hercules cannot fall. Leonidas stands firm. Samurai strikes unseen. Achilles protects the weak." Alien analysts were stunned. These were not just codes, they were living legends. Every ship mirrored its namesake's story. Every tactic was a reenactment of ancient battles, made real. One observer whispered in terror, "They are not fighting, they are becoming their legends." Turning the tide. The Core Alliance, confident in their overwhelming numbers, began to falter. Ships collided in confusion. Commands were delayed. The humans exploited every weakness, every hesitation. The reptilian general shouted in frustration, "Hold the line. Crush them. They are only humans." But the humans did not flee. They did not fear death. They advanced relentlessly. One by one, alien ships fell to tactics they could not predict. Entire squadrons vanished within minutes, overwhelmed by fleets that moved faster, struck harder, and fought with courage the galaxy had never seen. The Legend Protocol. At the climax of the battle, Captain Torres activated the Legend Protocol, a secret hidden within human fleets for centuries. Massive warships shifted in formation. Lights flared. Energy fields expanded across the fleets. Alien weapons were disrupted. Ships thought invincible were now vulnerable. The protocol turned every human vessel into a living embodiment of its legend. They moved with unnatural precision, striking with timing and courage that seemed impossible. The Core Alliance could not recover. Their strongest warriors fell one by one, just like the stories of old, heroes who were never meant to survive, now facing the wrath of humanity's own legends. The final revelation. When the smoke cleared, the human fleets were victorious. Thousands of alien ships were destroyed. Entire fleets disappeared. The Core Alliance was broken, scattered, humiliated. And yet, the humans did not enslave the galaxy. They did not demand tribute or surrender. Instead, a message was sent across every sector, calm but filled with weight. You laughed at our stories. You mocked our legends. Now you know the truth. We fight to defend, not to conquer. Remember this day. Never forget who we are. The galaxy, once full of arrogance and laughter, now whispered human names with awe and fear. Aftermath. On countless worlds, survivors told stories of humans who fought like ghosts, warriors who smiled at death, ships that became living legends. The age of fear had begun, but it was different from fear of oppression. This was respect born from understanding. The Varen commander, observing the aftermath, spoke quietly to his aides. They are more than warriors. They are legends made flesh. The galaxy will never be the same. On Earth, Captain Maria Torres looked at the stars. She knew the war was over, but humanity had proven something greater than victory. They had proven that courage, unity, and belief in one's history could turn even myths into reality. The age of human legends. From that day on, the galaxy would remember. Hercules was not just a name. Achilles was not just a story. Leonidas was not just a legend. Samurai was not just a memory. Humanity had turned its legends into power. They had survived, thrived, and conquered not by destroying, but by showing the galaxy the truth of their strength. The galaxy that once laughed at human stories now bowed to their courage, whispered their names with fear and respect, and understood for the first time that humans were unlike any other species. They were living legends, and the age of humans had truly begun.